Okay, so this is a topic I didn't think we'd be talking about. Yeah, with Nintendo Switch 2 doing so extremely well in the market, off of release, getting over 15 million units sold already, it's a pretty madly successful console, that's to say the least. So I didn't really expect to see this quite so soon. I knew this would be coming, and I've been talking about this for a while, and I'm sure this video is going to ruffle a lot of feathers today, but I didn't expect it to be this soon. But apparently, the month of November had the lowest physical software and hardware sales in November since 1995 in the US. That is freaking insane. The lowest month of console and physical copies sold since 1995. Now, to be fair, this isn't just Nintendo, obviously, but I think there's a big reason why we need to be a little worried that it's Nintendo as well. But this is an article on IGN. I'll link it down below, and all this data and information comes from Circana's monthly report. And one of the reports states that the Xbox Series hardware sales are down 70% year over year, which makes sense. I don't even know if there's like a reason to get an Xbox at this moment. Like, are there even any exclusives anymore? PS5 sales were down over 40%, and combined unit sales of Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch 1 were down over 10% from Switch sales last year, despite this being a launch year for the Nintendo Switch 2. We also can take a look at the actual hardware sales for November and the top selling hardware, and somehow the brand new Nintendo Switch 2 is being beat out by PlayStation 5 still. Now, the first thing you're probably going to see a lot of people run off and say is that, you know what, times are hard for all of us. The economy is in a horrible place right now in the US, so like, yeah, obviously, it definitely is. This is not the best year to buy a brand new $450, $500 console plus $70 to $80 video games with it. I completely understand. Like, having to go out and spend $450 for a brand new Switch 2 without the games, plus, you know, if you want to buy Mario Kart or the bundle, that's going to be $500 for the bundle. Plus, if you want Donkey Kong Bonanza, in my opinion, the only game worth the price at the moment, you're going to be forking over another $70. So after tax, you're going to be paying about over $600 for just a new console experience from Nintendo. So yes, I do see price being a big issue, but I don't see it being the number one issue here, because how is price not a factor at all when it comes to how fast the Switch 2 was a success? Like, how many units it sold out the gate? It did extremely well out the gate. Like I said, over 15 million units so far. It's one of the best-selling consoles out the gate. So I don't think price is the main factor here at all. In fact, I 100% believe it's something that I feared as soon as we got the announcement of the console, and people called me crazy that I was just a, you know, annoying fanboy that only wanted to play Mario and Zelda. I wanted my Bing Bing Wahoo. But then you look at what's going on, it's just like, I'm pretty sure I was pretty spot on with what I said before, where Nintendo's lineup just wasn't impressive. I mean, you look at the holiday season, there is literally no reason to run out and buy a Switch 2. There's no huge game this holiday that's making people run out and go purchase Switch 2s. Like I said, I believe the only game that's really worth buying a Switch 2 for right now is Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think the Switch 2 is the era where Nintendo fanboys are starting to get too cocky. We're starting to be like PlayStation fanboys and Xbox fanboys and stuff, where we're starting to like let the Switch 1's success get to our heads and think that Nintendo is just incapable of failure now, like the Wii U age never happened. And I think we're getting too comfortable to the fact where we're not critically evaluating Nintendo the way that we should be. We're kind of just shutting up, clapping our hands, and being excited at everything they fork our way. But when you look at the games that's come out, a lot of people are really stuck on quantity over quality now. But Nintendo Land, look at all the games that we're getting. The holiday lineup is packed. This is so much better than 2017. But when you look at the quality of the games coming out, I'd much rather have one massive title every 3 to 4 months if it meant that that title was going to be a full 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 experience. And we really have not gotten that on Switch 2 outside of Donkey Kong. Was Mario Kart World a mixed bag? Absolutely. I mean, it was definitely not the game that a lot of people thought it was going to be. It has a lot of issues. It seems like the updates are making the game a lot better for sure, but it doesn't matter. This is Mario Kart and a launch title for Nintendo's brand new console. They haven't had a Mario Kart in 11 years. This game could have been hot trash, a 2 out of 10, and the carts could have had no wheels and you move 1 mile an hour and people would have still bought this thing up because it's Mario Kart. They're paying for the name. It's Mario Kart. Who doesn't want to play the next Mario Kart game? It may not be the quality that we wanted, but as much as I really would have preferred Donkey Kong being the launch title, I can't lie, having Mario Kart as the launch title was genuinely just the smartest move from Nintendo. But why have Donkey Kong Bonanza a month later? That just left your holiday a complete empty slate, and something I noticed from the very first Nintendo Direct, and that's why I was so let down by that Nintendo Direct. I was like, dude, from everything that I've seen, there was only 2 really big, exciting games coming to this brand new Switch 2 after a year of just kind of ports, remakes, and remasters. We were looking for some next big things, and I'm like, man, after July, it's gonna be a ghost town. I'm saying this as a huge Nintendo fanboy. I feel like a lot of the times we look at things through Nintendo fanboy lenses without taking those off and looking at things as a casual fan. You know, what does a casual fan want to play? What is a casual fan of Nintendo going to go buy a $450 console for? They're going to buy it for the Marios, for the Zeldas, for Smash Brothers, for Animal Crossing, for maybe even Splatoon. These are the things that casual fans relate with. And I still think it's fine to have some of those spin-off titles, some of those B tier and even C tier franchises have games on the Switch 2, but there needs to be a balance. You can't have 3 or 4 spin-off games in a row or 3 or 4 Switch 1, Switch 2 edition games in a row without having some heavy hitters. Of course, it's still too early to see how all these games are individually performing, but I can pretty much make some educated guesses based on just what the games are and what they provided. I think Kirby Air Riders is one of the sleeper picks of this year. I think it was a really good title, and I actually had way more fun with it than I did with Mario Kart World. But let's face it, it's a second racing game within months of Mario Kart World. How many people are really going to care about Kirby Air Riders outside of Nintendo's dedicated fans? Most people that go out and spend $450 for a brand new Nintendo console are probably going to do it for Mario Kart, not for Kirby, and especially not for a Kirby racing game. I feel like this game would have been one of those perfect things to have around your year 2 lineup sometime in the summer, something to hold you off for the next huge title, and it just felt like it was a weird placement to be this year. Once again, this is me saying that I think Kirby Air Riders is the second best game on Switch 2 right now. In fact, I would even recommend it over Mario Kart. And I know this game came out at the end of November, but it doesn't seem like anyone was buying Switch 2s specifically for this game based on those sales. Another November game, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, is a game that many people just did not care about. It's another Zelda spin-off, but also the third Hyrule Warriors game. When we just got Age of Calamity on Nintendo Switch 1, having Age of Imprisonment, which felt a lot like the same game, is on Switch 2, and in fact, I preferred Age of Calamity after fully completing Age of Imprisonment. It's a fine game, but it really doesn't offer anything too special to be forking over $70 for on a brand new console. Once again, it feels like one of those games that should have been year 2 of Switch 2, or maybe even one of the final years of Switch 1, instead of it being a 6-month window of Switch 2's launch. And then I was really hoping for Metroid Prime 4 to be the big holiday title that Nintendo needed, and it just didn't seem to be the case. The reviews are extremely mixed. Just like Hyrule Warriors, it's sitting around a 79 on Metacritic right now, dropped from its 81 or 82 it was once at. The game had clear issues, and as a pretty big Metroid fan myself and somebody that's played through the original Prime trilogy at least 3 times, I was not too satisfied with what they gave us with Prime 4. Once again, it's a quantity over quality thing from Nintendo, it feels like, where instead of those big masterpieces that we're getting, a bunch of just fine games. Not bad, but not great either, just okay, good maybe. And once again, I'm not going to say too much until the sales come out, because like I hope I'm wrong. Like I want Metroid to do well, even though I wasn't a fan of Metroid Prime 4, but still, I just don't see people going out this holiday, like I said, in a bad economy already, spending $450 for a new Kirby racing game, for the third Hyrule Warriors game, or for a Metroid Prime 4 game that went through a development crisis and, you know, ended up being a 7 out of 10 for a lot of people once it finally released. And it's not even a Switch 2 game exclusive. That's another thing. There's no reason to buy a Switch 2 for Metroid Prime 4, even if you really wanted to play this game. I heard it runs really well on Switch 1 as well. So in my eyes, as someone who loves almost every single Nintendo IP, let me make that clear. I love all things Nintendo. In fact, I just recently got into Xenoblade. I loved the first game. I'm about to try Fire Emblem for the first time. Those are like the only two franchises I really wasn't fans of until I tried them. And like I said, I love Xenoblade. I'm probably going to end up loving Fire Emblem. Who knows? But even as somebody that's a diehard fan of Nintendo, I looked at this lineup originally and just was kind of confused by what in the world was Nintendo doing. Donkey Kong and Mario Kart World are going to do great for Nintendo, but what's after it? They're going to have a huge drought, and look at what we're going through right now. I love my Switch 2. I love the console. I love the graphics, and I love it being just a more powerful Switch. That's all I ever wanted, but I wanted some games to go along with it to make it worthwhile. When I'm looking at Metroid Prime 4, so far out of everything that's come out in Switch 2 is the only game that looks like a next-gen game. It's confusing to me. Where are the next-gen games? Where are the big, massive things that we've been waiting for? And the last Nintendo Direct that we got didn't put anything else into perspective for next year. You look at everything that's announced for next year, I mean, technically, Nintendo's fine for the first 4 to 5 months probably of next year, and nothing looks that exciting at all, especially even compared to this holiday season. The first half of next year has an Animal Crossing New Horizons update coming, which is another Switch 2 edition, a Switch 2 edition of Mario Wonder, a Mario Tennis game, once again another 2D Yoshi game, which is probably just going to be another okay Yoshi experience like they all are. We have a couple Switch 1 games still with Tomodachi Life and also Rhythm Heaven Groove. Now, Tomodachi Life sold extremely well on the 3DS, so it could be a pretty big deal for Nintendo fans, but is it going to push new units since it's a Switch 1 game? Probably not. And from what I've read online, for a lot of people, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is the most exciting game and most anticipated game for anybody in 2026. Shoot, I'm not even a Fire Emblem fan. It might be my most anticipated game. And for the longest time, people try to gaslight me into believing that this is a good lineup. You read the comments to this tweet now, because they are not great. Now, obviously, Nintendo's going to have some new games to talk about, like, duh. They're not going to go into next year without any big games or anything announced. I'm sure Splatoon Raiders is going to be one of the massive games for next year. I have full faith in that game. But even with that said, shouldn't we know something? Like, shouldn't there be some type of big game that the general audience is excited for next year? Like, shouldn't that last Direct got us excited for something big, or at least showed us something with Splatoon Raiders at the very least? I promise you, Switch 2 units will start selling like hotcakes again as soon as there's a big thing announced. Everybody that's bought into Switch 2s feels like the die-hard fans that jumped in from owning Switch 1s. Now, this is something that I've worried about for a while now. I didn't think it would happen this soon. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's just the month of November, but I was really worried about the legs of the console. There didn't seem to be anything to give an incentive to keep buying Switch 2s outside of that die-hard Nintendo fan base that bought Switch 1s. They got their Switch 2s. Now it's up to the general public to buy Switch 2s, and there's no reason to buy them. 95% of my friends don't own Switch 2s, and they all own Switch 1s. Lots of them are casual Nintendo fans, but they're still waiting on reasons to buy a Switch 2. None of them want to go out and buy the Switch 2 for anything that's come out so far. They're looking forward to the next 3D Mario, the next 3D Zelda, which is still going to be a while, to be fair, but Mario should have been announced by now. What's going on, Nintendo? I think if we don't see one of Nintendo's major franchises make an appearance next year, we're going to be in for some issues. Like, if 3D Mario or Luigi's Mansion even, which sold extremely well in Switch 1, don't count that one out. We know we're not getting Animal Crossing because the Animal Crossing update for New Horizons, but maybe even Smash Brothers, something along those lines. If one of those games come out next year, that's all Nintendo needs to do to drive hype. As a content creator, I can also tell you, because this is something I want to be open with you guys, is people aren't caring about the games that have come out. No one cares about Kirby content. There's really no hype around the game. No one's really talking about it. Hyrule Warriors came and went, and Metroid Prime 4 has been one of the lowest viewed games I've covered on the channel since I started in 2018. I know views is a strange metric to use when trying to see like how Nintendo's doing and how a game is performing, but normally it also shows the hype around that game and the community that's formed around it. When Tears of the Kingdom came out, everyone was talking about the game. Everyone was sharing content about the game. Every Nintendo channel ever was getting tons of content, showing off builds, showing off people's creations, finding locations that people missed. It was a huge phenomenon. We really haven't even seen that with any game on Nintendo. Not even Donkey Kong was carrying that type of weight. Maybe it's because it's Donkey Kong and not 3D Mario, but the only game that's really had any content for it was Mario Kart World before people started realizing it's not a great game. And then the biggest content bust of this year has literally been people just pooping on Nintendo and pooping on Mario Kart World, getting tons of views from it. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say, Nintendo, let's get the train rolling here. And no, it doesn't have to be my beloved Mario and Zelda only. Nintendo's just kind of lost their flair, I feel like, when it comes to having new, interesting ideas and games that come out of nowhere. Look at Splatoon. Who would have known it would have blown up to be this big as it is today? But it would have never happened if Nintendo didn't take any risk. And Nintendo just isn't taking any risk, which is weird. They took big risks back on the Wii U, a dying console from the start, but they don't take any risk on the Nintendo Switch 1 or Switch 2 when they've been nothing but madly successful. Like, why aren't we having any new IPs, pop up, or any classic IPs being returned, like F-Zero? Where's Star Fox? Give us a really super ambitious Star Fox game. Put a lot of time and development into that game and see what fans think about it. That's the problem. It's just like we're forced to wait on Mario and Zelda because it's the only major franchises that Nintendo puts all their effort and money towards. If they did that with everything else, if they did that with Metroid Prime 4, we wouldn't be in this situation, would we? People get attracted to games not because it's a major IP that they love. They get attracted to games that are cultural phenomenons, experiences that sink you into the game. I mean, look at things like Arc Raiders and even Expedition 33 that's won every award imaginable at the Game Awards. Why did those games win? They don't have any prior games. They're not well-established series or IPs. They're new experiences that have full effort put into them. They are fully developed, extremely fun experiences made by these developers, and I feel like we're not getting that level of quality with Nintendo Switch 2 titles right now. They just feel like any old games that we could be playing on Switch 1 still. They don't feel like next gen. As much as I complain about wanting 3D Mario, there's nothing more that I think I'd want than a brand new Star Fox game built from the ground up and given full effort, a full-length video game experience from Nintendo, not something that's a quick little, oh, here's new Star Fox, here's Star Fox Zero. Give us a full Star Fox experience with full effort given, a AAA budget. Put effort into this next game. Do the same thing with Kid Icarus. Why do we need 3 Hyrule Warriors games and a Fire Emblem Warriors game instead of giving us a new Kid Icarus experience or bringing back Kid Icarus Uprising or something along those lines? There's just stuff that Nintendo could be doing that I'm just not seeing from them. Every Nintendo Direct, I can pretty much predict what the big game is going to be. Of course we're getting a new Fire Emblem. Of course there's a new Xenoblade coming. Like, that's just something I'm mentally preparing for the next Nintendo Direct. But it's always stuff that you can just expect. No, duh. A new 3D Mario game is eventually going to be coming. But where's the surprises? Where's the ambition? Where's the stuff that make us say, wow, I was not expecting that? Where's the Mario Rabbids type of situation, or ARMS with a brand new IP? Did ARMS do extremely well? No, but it still sold pretty well for an early game on Switch 1, and people really had a cult following for ARMS for a while. But as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this. I mean, after being absolutely destroyed online by pretty much everybody in every outlet for wanting 3D Mario, like, I'm just now etched in time, known as the 3D Mario beggar boy, I guess you could say. It's funny now because I'm seeing all these accounts on Twitter and online saying 3D Mario is going to save us with this lineup next year. 3D Mario is going to save us next year. And it makes me laugh because not only was I not just expecting 3D Mario to be a title this year, I was just wanting to hear about it this year for next year then, if that's the case. And it's crazy to me that we haven't even seen the game or heard about the game yet. So I'm not even confident that we'll see 3D Mario next year. I don't know why everyone's so confident now. I would not get my hopes up because this is Nintendo we're talking about. If they thought that Donkey Kong Bonanza could be a 3D Mario replacement for this year, what's stopping them from saying, oh, a 3D third-person adventure game with Splatoon being Splatoon Raiders? They could say that's the replacement for 3D Mario for next year until we wait for early 2027 or something. So yeah, I don't know how this is going to go. I'm really trying to be optimistic, but it's hard because we're already seeing things that I thought would not until like the middle or end of 2026. I didn't think within the first 6 months of Switch 2 we'd be seeing a month with hardware sales down so bad. It could mean absolutely nothing. Maybe everything pops right back up in December for the holiday season and throughout next year. But I'm telling you right now, if Nintendo doesn't get some major titles announced in this next Nintendo Direct, I don't see how in the world the Switch 2 is going to maintain big sales. Seriously. I mean, it's going to be one of those things that were huge out the gate and has horrible legs if Nintendo doesn't start announcing announcing some big titles for this thing. This next Nintendo Direct is huge for them. I mean, very huge. I have extremely low expectations for it. You know, with already so many announced games, I find it hard that Nintendo's going to have a much more. We'll see, but there needs to be some surprises. There needs to be some big things to look forward to and give people reasons to go out and buy $450 consoles in 2025. With the economy being so bad as it is, it's probably only going to get worse in 2026. They need to start giving reasons why we need to buy these consoles. What are the games looking like? And this goes throughout the rest of the market as well. Like, Sony needs to start releasing some games. You look at everything else, it's the main reason why consoles aren't selling. Xbox has no exclusives. What are you buying an Xbox for when you can just go out and buy a PC or a PS5? What is releasing on PS5 that is a big exclusive? Nothing. Nintendo's the only ones, I'll give them credit, the only ones putting out exclusive games for their brand new Switch 2. Just the games aren't big enough to draw attention on consumers or anybody that's even thinking about buying a Switch 2 right now. Once again, lots of my buddies, people that I know, are waiting to buy Switch 2s for those big experiences, and until Nintendo announces them, they're not going to see the love that they want to see for this Switch 2. Now, Andre Segers breaks down some more information that I really liked from GameXplain. He talked about how this is some of the worst sales, and a lot of people online talked about how this is some of the worst sales since, a specific month of the Wii U era, which is crazy to even think about. That's how low November's console and software sales have been. But he also talks about, just look at the eShop right now. Metroid Prime Beyond is at number 1, and look at the rest of the games. Red Dead Redemption at number 2. Pokemon ZA at number 3, which is a Switch 1 title as well. And on Switch 1, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is at number 10, which is a console that's been out for over 8 years already. So, if Switch 2 sales are so down in November and Metroid Prime is the best-selling game on Switch 2 and the 10th best-selling game on Switch 1 on the eShop, that's already some pretty sour news, to be honest. Now, I'm not a grifter at all, nor will I ever be one, but I'm also not a blind Nintendo glazer. I'm not going to sit here and just glaze Nintendo for doing the bare minimum, for giving us bare minimum quality experiences just at the sake of giving us a game every month. But I'm going to talk, what needs to be said and speak what needs to be said. But it just, fans don't make this any easier as well. A video simply titled "Nintendo Really Needs a Big Game Right Now," which was just meant to say, let's get all the hate out of the air from Nintendo by just having one big game that everyone's excited for, fans and non-fans. You know what I mean? Nope, this was my most disliked video in recent years. Nintendo fans are so caught up on just the majority of, oh, look at all the shiny games coming, without truly looking at what those games are, the quality of those games. Are these games even going to be worth the price that Nintendo's charging an egregious $70 for? Now these games have come out, people have experienced them, and I think people are starting to finally realize maybe I was right, because all I'm seeing online now is people wondering what the next big game is. That's because a lot of you that are in my comment section telling me that I'm a baby, I'm a brat, and I don't like the games that are coming out. There's so much to experience. My plate is full of games, and I'm just being a spoiled brat. A lot of you aren't even buying those games that came out this holiday season. Or a lot of you guys didn't even enjoy the games that came out this holiday season. Because it seems like everybody now is immediately moving on to what's next right after these games just came out. I mean, if these games are so precious to everybody, why aren't people playing them? Why aren't people viewing content about them? And why aren't people talking about them? It's because these games and these experiences are just lackluster in comparison to something big and massive from Nintendo. So now everybody's jumping to my side saying, where's Mario now? No, you can't do that now. You can't switch sides. Go back. I'm ranting too much. If you guys have been following me this year, you know that this was a thing that I was fearing for a long time now. I knew it was going to happen, but I think it was going to happen this soon. I know there's a lot of factors out there once again. I know that the economy is messed up. I know everything's super expensive, but still, a lot of this is on Nintendo, and I think we're starting to see the effects of this until Nintendo starts making some changes. But yeah, I want Nintendo to do well. I'm not a grifter. I don't want Nintendo to do bad just so I can get some views on negative posting videos. I don't like posting negative videos. I want to go back to talking about big games and things you missed in the next big 3D adventure game or something like that. I want to talk about and speculate what's next from Nintendo. And the biggest thing that everyone's got their eyes on seems to be Zelda's 40th anniversary for next year. That's what everyone's been talking about and what all the interest and the views and the excitement is for right now online. Not anything to have to do with a game that's already announced, which is kind of a bad telltale sign. So we'll see what happens. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to my TED Talk. Sometimes I just got to break it down and be honest with you guys. You know, at the end of the day, I don't care about hate anymore. I don't care about what people have to say. I'm going to speak truth and how I feel about something, and hopefully things make a big change for next year. So far with Switch 2, I'm not too impressed with the software lineup and everything that's happened with it. It's simple. It's just a great console that needs better software, but we'll see what happens soon. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a blessed day, guys. See ya.